Well, we've been warning about a war with China. This week, it is confirmed by two major hints. One, we're pointing missiles at them. And two, Republicans confirmed it in a request for more money. So where should we start? With the many other weapons? I guess we'll start with the weapons, because that's the most exciting part, I suppose.
For them.
Yeah, I suppose. The Army announced that they would deploy new medium-range missiles to the Pacific next year to deter China from invading Taiwan. So we're going to tell you, don't do this because we have guns pointed at your head, and that's what we want you to not do. By medium range, they say it's 2,500 kilometers. So that's quite a long range. The Army says that this is allowed because the United States has withdrawn from the Intermediate Range Nuclear Force Treaty. Here's from Defense One, which is a military publication, saying that the deployment of these land-based Tomahawks, whose variant can range up to 2,500 kilometers, used to be forbidden under the 1987 Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty until the U.S. withdrew in 2019, citing Russian noncompliance. The Marine Corps stood up its first Tomahawk battery in July at Camp Pendleton. Flynn, this is a General Flynn, not Michael Flynn, said these missiles might be followed by the Army's precision strike missile. So it's a 1-2 punch. So we can say they're more like it's like a chaser, like a bomb chaser. Okay, so first is precision strike. We're going to talk about what that is in a second. And then it's these medium range. Well, lucky us, we no longer have to follow those rules since we found a way to blame Russia for the rules we don't want to follow anyway. Except at the time in 2019, when the U.S. withdrew from this treaty, the Trump administration flat out said they were withdrawing because they wanted to make these weapons because of China. Here's from that same publication from 2020, says the Trump administration said leaving this treaty would allow the deployment and development of these missiles in the Pacific. We said at the time we wanted these to aim at China. So we can blame Russia, and that's convenient. Russia says they did not violate this treaty, and they proved it. The United States says, yes, you did, and we can prove it back. So this is a war of words, but of course it's super convenient because we wanted out of it in order to make these and point them at China. We said just as much. Now, for the last year, Russia has been warning that the U.S. has been prepping these weapons, which were previously banned. And Russia is telling American journalists, please watch this. We're telling you they're doing it. Take a look. Here is Russian Foreign Affairs spokesperson Maria Zakharova on this matter. This was her speaking in the fall of 2023, and it's subtitled. So if you're listening, it's in Russian. You're just going to have to catch it later and read the subtitles.
Мы США демонстративно перешли к задействованию практически готового к применению комплекса пусковой установки МК-70 в рамках военных учений. Они проводятся на территории Европы с подключением союзников США и союзников США по НАТО. И таким образом Вашингтон просто приступил фактически к обработке действий по переброске на Европейский театр военных действий ракетных систем, ранее запрещенных по целенаправленно разрушенному Вашингтоном договору о РСМД. В контексте объявленного Россией одностороннего моратория на размещение РСМД наземного базирования мы самым внимательным образом отслеживаем любые шаги США по реализации дестабилизирующих планов, которые предполагают развертывание указанных вооружений. Хотелось бы напомнить, что жизнеспособность российского моратория напрямую связана с появлением в соответствующих регионах американских ракет упомянутого комплекса. И очень хотелось бы, чтобы на эту информацию обратили внимание американские средства массовой информации, журналисты, для которых бы потом не стало сюрпризом что-нибудь.
Okay, so what she said is pay attention to this so you're not surprised later. We had this treaty, you pulled out, now you're using these. Watch what your own government is doing. Well, we're watching. So those same contested weapons that we insist we cannot use, by we I mean Americans, we're using them. And the Army says, again, it's like a chaser to precision strike missiles. Well, what's that? Oh, well, Lockheed Martin is glad that you asked what a precision strike missile is, because just a few days ago they ran a test, and here's a video about them bragging about it. Watch. Great
some
killing machines.
hot beats there.
Yes. We're going to go kill some people.
That is music to mass murder too, if I've ever heard it.
Right. It's like that was like it was like a Rocky IV training montage. You know, like that's like Ivan Drago like lifting or something.
You want to go lift some weights?
Yeah.
Is that what that meant?
That's what that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, did you notice that the video said that Lockheed Martin successfully launched these PRSMs, these precision strike missiles? Well, okay, but in a press release about this, the Army said they didn't use the word success. Take a look at the word that they used. They performed nominally. That's not the same.
That was like me in high school.
What do you mean? Like your grades or
Performed
is that a sex
nominally.
joke?
No. Well,
Okay.
No. I excelled.
All right. I wasn't sure where you're going with that because we're talking about bombs and they're kind of phallic. And okay. All right. I went there. Okay.
See where you're
Let's
headed.
bring it back. Let me try and bring it back. So again, they're saying they're ready to go. And the Army's saying this is nominal performance. Is that the standard you should go for if you're launching bombs?
I mean,
is nominal.
Do they have to be precise? I mean, right, the thing that they're...
It's literally in their title is precision strike.
Right. So what we mean by precise is when we're really targeting this particular oil refinery, what we may end up hitting is a school. So that's nominally successful. Like, you know, it was about...
It's within range.
It was 300 yards away. We were nominally successful with it.
They're like, it's slightly closer than we were with the Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Like it's not 30 miles off. It's like 10.
We're
It's
getting
like 10,
there.
15. Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah. It's like your Uber driver made a wrong turn kind of a thing.
Okay. Well, that's not so encouraging considering we're talking about death. I mean, it's kind of funny because the word is precision strike and they're saying it's nominal. Like precision can't be nominal. It can't.
Right.
Those words don't work together.
It's like saying it's basically precise. It's pretty much precise.
You cannot say that.
McMental Music Makers in our chat says nominal is 0.
It's and so it's like
Yeah.
okay. So I don't know if you want to feel so good about what Lockheed Martin is doing with our tax dollars, but I can't just let them get away with the word precision in weapons like this because one, if they're performing nominally, there's nothing precise about it. But two, I want to remind you of this term precision paradox because precision strike is something that was coined during the Obama years to trick us into thinking that only bad guys get hurt. Obviously, that's not true. That's why we have this term precision paradox. It's a situation in which the failed promise of a precision strike, one kill, generates a creeping wave of destruction. Raise your hand if you like those words, creeping wave of destruction, because that's what we're going to get with these nominally successful missiles. Okay, so we've got the missiles. Let's get to the money. Let's get to the conditions at which we use said missiles. General Charles Flynn, not to be confused with Michael Flynn, said, we don't know if we'll need them yet, but just in case. He said this is really contingent on China's behavior, and he gave us 3 things that it's contingent of. You can sort of read along here, and I'm going to summarize. Number 1, this weird thing about Russia saying, well, it depends on how they behave around Russian sanctions. Why would we bomb China if they're not doing good with Russian sanctions? I'm not sure. Number 2, because in August, Xi Jinping replaced several top generals from the Chinese rocket force, so that might be something we use to feel threatened. And number 3, elections in Taiwan. If China keeps up the misinformation, we may have to nuke them. Sorry, not sorry, is basically the sort of sentiment of these quotes. Maybe you read it differently than me. Let me know. Now, Congress likes this plan, or at least Republicans do, and their war-loving poster girl, Nikki Haley. She loves to talk war in China. She wants it so badly she can taste it. She'll want for nothing else if we give her a war with China in life. That's what I would say. Now, on November 19th, 6 House Republicans sent this letter to Congress asking for an additional $12 billion to prep for a war with China. Now, notice they're saying that the administration thinks here that we need increased funding for the Indo-Pacific, and the administration's strategy says that we're entering a decisive decade. So they're here saying, we agree with the Biden administration. We're with you. We absolutely want on board with a war with China. Notice the bipartisan nature of this letter. This is from Republicans agreeing with the Biden administration that, yes,
Of course they want war.
China is a big problem. Don't worry, though. They see all of these weapons as a deterrence. Here's what they say. And they think that, this is our vision for peace, is prepping for war. I just cropped it that way so you can see all the signatories on it, just so you know who to tell who brought this war with China. And what they say at the top, that this is in order to safeguard peace. They say, while deterrence may be hard, war is hell. Again, they almost say this while foaming at the mouth, it would seem. So, these are not subtle hints that your government, if you're an American, really, really wants a war with China, is provoking such, moving in that direction, prepping for it, and using these nominally successful precision bombs. But I thought that, we were mending fences with China. Last week, President Xi Jinping met with President Biden. They acted friendly together. They talked about economic cooperation. Was that all for naught? Well, I guess we'll let Secretary of State Antony Blinken's body language show you how that went. After what Blinken thought was a day of successful relations building, which would, by the way, make his job 5,000% easier, the president went on and called Chinese President Xi Jinping a dictator. You have to, if you haven't seen this video, I watched it like 20 times because it's so priceless. Watch Antony Blinken's face, hoping that maybe his job will just get a little bit easier and the president will just mend fences and he won't have to lie in order to get a war with China. And then look how he knows, nope, it's not going to go that way.
Mr. President, after today, would you still refer to President Xi as a dictator? This is a term that you used earlier this year.
Well, look, he is. I mean, he's a dictator in the sense that he is the guy who runs a country that is.
Can you play it again? It's so good. I can't get enough of it. It's just
by the way, that's
deflated.
become a meme now, of course,
Yeah.
like in other contexts, like when your wife asks you to take out the trash, you're like, oh, God, no. Like,
well, I think it's funny because you can watch him bracing for it. Like you can see when she asks the question, he's completely bracing for the answer.
Yes.
he's like, he's rocking back and forth like on his butt cheeks. He's like, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it.
Will my life get 1,000,000% easier after this day and I won't have to lie for a war? No.
Yeah, roll it again.
It's not going that way.
Mr. President, after today, would you still refer to President Xi as a dictator? This is a term that you used earlier this year.
Well, look, he is. I mean, he's a dictator in the sense that he is the guy who runs a country that.
The pain in his face, you would almost feel sorry for him.
He's like, I just had a bad oyster. I just feel it. Oh, I'm going to have to duck out of this meeting early.
So, I mean, that almost tells me that he, his job, you think being Secretary of State would be like you fly all over the world, you eat all these interesting cuisines, you shake hands with interesting people. His job is nothing but giving excuses for war and lies. And
he always have to go. Blinken always has to go and sort of walk back things that his boss has said.
Yeah.
Oh, so do you agree with your boss when you talk to, he's a dictator and he's got to look at his notes. He's like, well, I think what he was referring to, and he's got to spin some yarn about what the president actually said.
Yeah, it just is so pitiful. So, maybe we can interpret the hope in his face as if there are people that maybe don't want to continue to wage wars all the time. Maybe. But all actions to the contrary. So let us know how you feel about this extra money for a war with China, how you feel about these new nominal performing bombs, if you're excited about that, and the use of your tax dollar.
So that mean we're getting ready to fund 3 wars? They said we could afford 2. I didn't see anything out there saying we could afford 3, but I guess we can afford 3. I guess that's good. That means
we're going to put one of them on layaway.
I think if you look at this language closely, we're sort of weaving Russia and China together as one entity, because we're saying that the general here says if China doesn't behave the way we want them to around economic sanctions levied on Russia, then we might have to bomb China. What does that have to,
it's basically going to be NATO versus BRICS.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, BRICS is not is not supposed to be a defense organization. It's an economic organization, but who knows at this point? Who knows?
Yeah. Well, when I said layaway, and I actually mean that, I think about it now, actually all of the wars that we wage are on layaway. It's buy now, pay later.
Yeah.
And who are we borrowing it from? We're borrowing it from China.
Who we're going to bomb.
Right. Isn't that ironic? We're literally borrowing like 30 to 40% of the money that we use in the United States government from China. And we're going to use that money to fund a war with China. It's very meta.